So many people can answer a sales conversation. And however, if someone can hunt and go find the business, they're also going to be your best closers when you give them leads. And so when we were with Tony and Chet, one of the things that I learned, when you're interviewing someone, no matter how good they are, no matter what they say about themselves, you say, I don't hear it. I don't think you're a top producer. And you just pause. Because if they're a top producer, they're going to come back and have an answer. Excuse me? How can you even say this? So it's like you want to really challenge someone. And there's a scientist called Elliot Prudagine, and there's something called perturbation. It's controlled pressure. Controlled pressure creates diamonds, but when you put that controlled pressure on someone, you're going to find out what they're made of.
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hair. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast. If you're tired of chasing leads that go nowhere, managing underperforming sales teams, or trying to grow your business with marketing that feels like guesswork, you're not alone. Whether you're a public adjuster, contractor, or attorney, building a high-performing team that actually drives revenue can feel like an uphill battle. That's why we brought in David Asarnow. He's the CEO of Sababa.global and Business Nitrogen, with over 2 decades of experience helping businesses scale smarter, faster, and more profitably, often by combining solid systems with the strategic use of AI. In this episode, David breaks down how to build sales and marketing teams that deliver, even if you're starting small. Let's dive in. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Galen.
All right, so before we kind of jump into our discussion today, let's talk about the path that led you into helping transform businesses. How'd you get there?
It's a great question. And most people don't ask me the path. So I grew up working for my grandfather in his business. And when I was in my late 20s, I had an opportunity for a company I worked for. It was a 50-year-old family-owned business that did 6 to 8 million in revenue. And they gave me an opportunity to start a new division for the company. And I proceeded to build a $45 million division over the next 5 years. I then got an opportunity to raise capital, acquired the first all-digital portrait studio chain. We franchised it and grew that to 8 figures in 5 years. And I was featured in magazines and on stages because in 2008, everything was crashing, but we were soaring. The real reason is I wasn't watching the news, so I didn't know we were supposed to crash. And so it goes to wherever you focus in on, you can create. And after that, when I was 40 years old, I'm like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I stepped down as the president and CEO of that company. I ended up getting an opportunity to speak for Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes in their Business Breakthroughs International, which was really just working with entrepreneurs and executives. And in 90 days, I became their top closing speaker. And I say closing because we would speak for free. And the only way we made money is if we sold people in the coaching, consulting, or in their $5,000 ultimate business mastery system. And over the 2.5 years doing that, one of the things I loved is just being put on a hot seat, hearing a business problem, challenge, or pain someone had and solving it right there on the spot and showing them how the information and the technologies that we had would actually create growth. And my company, Business Nitrogen, was launched out of that while I was there on the side. And when Chet passed away, I went full time into it. So I've been doing it for 15 years and this is what I do.
Wow. And, it's so cool. So that's one of the things we really try, at least on this podcast, because there's so many coaches out there, so many coaching systems, so many coaching programs, so many leadership coaches. So we try to find people that have actually been where you've been. And, so I think it's always so important to cover that. And one of the things I'm gathering from your background is you have hired a lot of people. So let me ask you this. These public adjusting firms, these contractor firms, they tend to have a pretty big reliance on successful sales. However, a lot of them, some of the younger ones, the smaller ones, they tend to rely on the owners to be those salespeople because they have trouble pulling in the right people for sales. So how do you identify a high performing sales or marketing team when you're looking to hire?
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you looking for someone who's taking an inbound lead, or are you looking for a hunter who's going to go develop?
I think almost everyone here that's listening today wants a hunter.
Okay, and I'll say this because it's so funny. When I was with Tony and Chet, I got a call one day. They launched out a brand new training. It was called how to hire the best salesperson ever, basically. And it was Doug, who is the president of the division, calls me with laryngitis saying, Dave, I can't do this webinar. And I'm telling you the story for a reason. And I said, you want me to do something? It's a 2-hour training. I've never seen the slides. And you want me to sell people on a $3,000 program at the end of it. And this is less than 2 hours. And he said, yeah, can you do it? I said, great, I'll figure it out. And so I get on this training, and I look at them, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I need to do. And I deleted all the slides. I had no idea what they were about. And I opened the call and I said, you're all here because you want sales hunters, don't you? Yes. And I said, okay. Over the past 10 years, I told my story about multi-figure businesses. I said, how many of you want to learn how to hire me? And by the way, I did all that 45 million on cold calls.
Nice.
Literally. I cold called billion-dollar companies: McDonald's, Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco, Starbucks, Dairy Queen, International Paper. And they all were multi-million-dollar clients. And so I said, how many of you want to learn how to hire me? Everyone said yes. And meanwhile, the funniest thing was Mitch Russo was texting Doug throughout the thing. What the F is this guy doing? He's not following the script. He's not following the presentation. I turned over my phone. I said, you asked me to do this. I'm going to do it. I closed 75% of the people on their program at the end. Next, I talked to Mitch. Doug's like, what were you doing? And now Mitch wants to talk to you. He's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen someone so masterfully. So here's the thing. So many people can answer a sales conversation. And however, if someone can hunt and go find the business, they're also going to be your best closers when you give them leads. And so when we were with Tony and Chet, one of the things that I learned, and this is so true, is when you're interviewing someone, no matter how good they are, no matter what their referral, no matter what they say about themselves, you say, I don't hear it. I don't think you're a top producer. I don't think this is going to work. And you just pause. Because if they're a top producer, they're going to come back, and they're a closer and they're a hunter. They're going to come back and have an answer. Excuse me? How can you even say this? So it's like you want to really challenge someone. And there's a scientist called Elliot Prudagine, and there's something called perturbation. It's controlled pressure. Controlled pressure creates diamonds, but when you put that controlled pressure on someone, you're going to find out what they're made of. Because guess what? In the field, they're going to find stress. They're going to find pressure. People are going to say no all the time. And one of the things that I like to say is no is not no. It's not yet. And it's because I did not get enough information. I didn't understand the pain, challenges, and problems. I didn't listen. You notice I would put it all on me. It's not the other person. It's always us. And making sure that when we're hiring people in those regards, and by the way, I used to have a hiring agency as well. So part of what we did is looking through this. And the other thing that I would suggest is, as much as you can on the front end, utilize automated systems, automated funnels to help start weeding people out, because in today's day and time, you can do things like that. So that way you're separating the wheat from the chaff and only interviewing the most qualified people who are ready to talk to you. Does that help, Galen?
Yeah, it does. And let me ask you, like, when you're interviewing these potential hunters, because the problem with salespeople, right, is they are amazing. They're the best salespeople ever. Just ask them. So how do you figure that out in an interview? What are some red flags to look for? Like
I,
hey, this guy might not be what he says he is.
here's, if you ask behavioral based. So tell me, so you say you're the best. Give me an example of a client that you hunted and kept saying no to you, and how did you turn them around? Okay, I want another one. I want another one. You can look at people and see if they've done it. They could tell you story after story after story. I could tell you every single one of my clients exactly what I did, even though it was 20 years ago. Why? Because I did it, right? So if they can't tell you actual stories and then start digging into that. Well, tell me more about this. What did Sam do? What did Henry say when you did that? And you can look at the reaction and see if they're making things up.
Yeah, fair. Which, but to be clear, that for those listening at home, that requires you to ask those behavioral based questions and really, really pay attention and judge those answers, not just on what's being said, but how it's being said.
Well, you
Which
got to
is
read body
huge.
language. You got to read body language just like you would if someone was selling in front of you. My grandfather, when I was 5, 6, and 7 years old, used to have salespeople calling on him and had me, I don't know why, as a little kid sitting in the office when they were making their pitches. They would leave and he said, "So what do you think about that person? Do you believe them? Do you trust them?" And I never realized back then, but that was probably one of the best things that ever happened is at such a young age, understanding behavioral science and reading people.
Let's kind of transition to our next topic, because you didn't mention it, but you mentioned, I guess, a close cousin of it. You talked about with talent acquisition using automated funnels to weed out the people that just there's no chance, which I
Yeah.
completely agree with. But kind of staying in the sales world, let's talk about that. So, like, I think you and I can agree, like, a small public adjuster contracting company, word of mouth is great, but that funnel is not enough anymore, right?
Yeah. So one of the things, and we've done some of this before, where we've created a marketing funnel that says we're looking for sales superstars. Don't apply unless you can prove that you're one. However, if you are, you'll earn in the X whatever percent. And we believe performers should be rewarded, and we reward our top performers. And then we use it as a survey segmentation funnel based upon the answers. They'll go to a page that says, "Hey, great, based upon the answer to this question, you look like you may be a fit. However, here's what we're going to do. uh, we want the cream of the crop, and we're going to have you go through these steps. If you're willing to go through these steps, we'll have an opportunity with you in person." The other side would be no. And today, you can, believe it or not, you can there's even AI systems that will do the interviews and rate the people for you.
So now let's take that same system, which sounds amazing. So let's talk about kind of creating a simple automated lead funnel, right? Something that qualifies leads and gets them in for like a
Yes.
high trust industry. Like all these people, I consider them to be high trust industries. So like, if you're going to hire a lawyer, you need to really trust them. If you're going to hire a public adjuster, you need to really trust them. Even to some extent, a lot of extent, I would say, if you're going to hire a roofer or a contractor, you want to trust them. So, we're not selling, these people are not selling the next fidget spinner. It doesn't matter how the photo looks, right?
Sure.
So we've got to qualify them while also engendering trust. So how would you approach that?
Well, we're doing this right now in using artificial intelligence and AI. I call them we have a proprietary system using AI funnels. There's two components to this. One is building the trust and rapport with someone, and it's also making sure you have a high intent lead who's raising their hand, right? And the biggest challenge that I've seen over the past couple decades is we get a lead, and then companies spend a lot of money to drive that traffic and lead, but people don't do a great job following up with that. And then they want the low hanging fruit that say yes right away, but they don't do all the work in order to convert them. So one of the things we've created, and anyone who's listening to this right now, I want you to think about this. The first thing that you want to do if someone raises their hand is show proof of life. In the first 72 hours, we have a 29-step process that they will not, until the first thing that they raised their hand and said they were interested in, unless they respond to a text message, unless they call, unless they click on a link in the email showing that they actually are alive, we're not going to continue marketing to them, because then all of a sudden you have all these people in your newsletter getting your weekly things that aren't reading it, aren't responding. And because of that, your delivery rate goes down. So we right away, if they came from a desktop, we'll send them an email. If they came from a phone, we'll send them a text message. And we have a very definitive, immediately day one, here's what they're getting. Day two, day three, day four. This is the process between, and by the way, we're using AI. So it's an AI text message. So no matter what they say, depending upon the core instructions and knowledge base, it will have a real conversation with someone and book the appointment. So the whole idea here is to take it out of humans' hands, which is many times I believe one of the most important components is how you handle that lead on the front end, because that's going to develop trust and rapport, and getting it to where the appointment is booked and someone can take it from there. Now, once someone opts in, one of the things that I truly like to do is have a video on there. The best way to start building rapport is, hey, I want to acknowledge you for taking that first step. In a few minutes, you're going to receive a text message from my team or via email. And you said that you wanted this, and here's exactly what we're going to be sending you. So you acknowledge them, you have that conversation, and then you're telling them. So right below this video, it's going to say, hey, you wanted this. Step one is this, step two is this, and step three is this. Next, it's all on you now. Just click the link in the text message or have a conversation, ask any questions you have, and our team will take care of you. And once you do, you'll book an appointment. We look forward to serving you. So you try to I like to use video as much as possible, because people connect with people, and just reading information on a page doesn't do that. So if you integrate all this into an automated framework or system, you're going to get better results.
That's awesome. And I think one of the things you kind of hit on is even using AI, even using funnels, even using tech. There's a difference between just marketing at people versus building relationships with people to ultimately achieve that marketing goal, right?
Oh, it's all about relationships. People buy from people. They don't buy from technology, and people connect with people. Now, the interesting thing, at least when we build out AI systems, we do our best. And I'll say, I believe it's our secret sauce. We've been able to through how we build our core instructions, have AI that appears to have empathy. It cares. If someone's, but we're doing a lot right now with attorneys, a big focus in on attorneys. Why? Attorneys, as you know, it's the highest cost per click out there, let alone cost per lead and cost per sale. And you need to be able to get someone from the time they raise their hand to signing a contract or booking an appointment as quickly as possible. And today you can do all that with AI.
Yeah, I was laughing when you said that, because some of our marketing people and some of our internal people will tell you it's the biggest thing. I'm beating this drum every day. If we're going to employ an AI component that's client facing, it needs to have empathy. It needs to be taught empathy. We launched a voice attendant, and that was the biggest thing. It took forever to get it to actually empathize. It was very difficult.
I could do it in 2 seconds. It's not as hard. Well, probably because I've been digging in it for 3 years.
I was going to say, well, now you can, but like a year ago when we started this, it was kind of unheard of,
I know. It's amazing though what's possible today, isn't it?
Oh, it's wild. It's wild. I will say, like, on a side note, and then we'll get back to like the actual topic, it kind of makes you lose your trust in people, because empathy is such this real thing. We feel connected. We really want to feel connected, right? And then now having looked under the hood and teaching a robot to fake empathize, because it's not real, because they don't have feelings, you suddenly are like, can I trust anyone that seems to understand what I'm saying? Like, maybe they're all faking.
I think humans have a harder time faking empathy. You either have empathy or you don't. And can it be trained? Yes. Yet it's hard. The reason that computer can do it is it has 160 IQ. And if we give it how to think, how to feel, I'll even train our AIs. I want you to listen to the first 10 seconds of someone's conversation, understand their tone, directness. And I want you to categorize them on the DISC profile. Are they D, I, S, or C? And then I want you to frame the rest of the conversation depending upon their personality type. And if you see a shift in their personality, I want you to mirror, match, and adjust. So we're using NLP along with it in our core instructions to our AI agents.
And for those of you listening at home that have heard us talk about AI prompts before, you just received a verbal example of why you're not getting what you want from your prompts, because David's thinking so far ahead, right? It's not just, hey, sell this person. It's figure out their personality type, match your pitch for them. We want you to mirror. We want you to reflect back what they're giving you. And then if their personality type shifts at any point, we want you to readapt, right? He's thinking 7 steps ahead. And I think that's the key to really using AI today, isn't it?
It is. I just did a training for a group of doctors. It was an 1.5-hour workshop on, if I could sum up the 1.5 hours, as becoming a prompt boss. And everyone, like, how many of you used AI? Everyone raised their hand. How many think you're doing a good job with it? Great. We'll reevaluate at the end of this. And I went through, how to actually instruct AI to do something. And they were like blown away. Yesterday, I was on with one of my team members that wanted to help me with some content. And she said, these prompts, these are amazing. It gets amazing results. And she gave it to me. I said, okay, you didn't watch my training last week, did you? And she said, no. I said, I sent it to you. I said, I'm going to give you a quick introduction. And I said, let me take your prompts and put it into the framework that I utilize and what I taught last week. And you're going to watch my screen as I go through it. And she was like, oh my gosh, this took what I thought was good and made it excellent. I said, the difference between AI that is average and that is, I say, superhuman, is the ability to have a conversation and an answer. The reason that these studies about people's brains with AI not working like they used to is because people just put something in and ask for a result, versus looking at artificial intelligence is the best possible collaboration partner that you can have. Your smartest version of you going back and forth, challenging each other. That's where you create magic.
I love that. All right, we don't have a ton of time left. We got a little bit though. So let's kind of transition into what I'd like to be kind of our last topic of the day, because I think it's just so on the nose for you. I mean, there's so many things that you do obviously and can help with. But let's talk about coaching up. So let's talk about how leaders can turn from underperformers into closers, which is kind of your jam, let's face it. So, so many leaders, I think, micromanage instead of put, I think, what you've termed as positive pressure on people. Let's talk about the difference. Like, what should you be doing? Obviously not micromanaging is the answer, but what should you be doing to get your team to be the absolute best possible in terms of managing?
Lead by example. People are looking at you, not what you say. They're looking at what you do. The other thing is set clear expectations. I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with people and they're like, this person's not delivering. And I ask them, I said, so tell me about the conversations you've had with them. What are your expectations? How did you communicate those expectations? What did you do? What did they respond? And we as leaders, if we want, 110%, we've got to explain what 110% means to us. Set those expectations. In sales, we need to have people competing against each other, because your best closers are, your best hunters, they're the people who actually like the leaderboard, because they want to see their name at the top. The people who are complaining, why are you doing that? I don't like seeing my name not at the top. Great. Get your name up at the top. Do what needs to be done. So in order to be a better leader and get what we want, we have to be excellent at communicating. I had a client that was telling me that they chewed out someone on their team because they didn't deliver what they want. I said, did you tell them you wanted this? They said, no, they did it on their own. I said, so someone took initiative and yet you chewed them out. I said, did you give them any feedback? No, I just said I didn't like it. They should know what I want. I said, so they're mind readers. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh, I see where you're going with it.
And anyone who's listening, have we ever done this in the past? And if we've ever done it in the past and we didn't get the results that we wanted, we need to ask a better question. We need to think, what do we want? What does it look like? Here's my expectations. And if they don't meet them, Okay, great. Let me give you some feedback and get an opportunity. People say I'm really patient. No, I know what the cost of replacing someone is, and I'd rather them make a mistake and get an opportunity and show me that they want to improve and that they want to be here. And the other thing is making sure that you get people who buy into your mission. As leaders, we've got to be able to sell the vision of what we are creating in this world. And the more that we can get people buying into our vision, the more that we're going to have a team that's willing to do whatever it takes in order to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. And I also think there's a piece of this, like like some leaders, I think, okay, I'll just be really charismatic, which will help my company overall with sales. And it will also help me pull in really good people because good people want to work for people they like. But one of the things you're kind of talking about is there's got to be, obviously being a good leader is really important, but also accountability systems just matter more than charisma, don't they? Like accountability to yourself and your team has to be accountable. Fair?
Yeah, it has to be. I have a meeting with different people on my team almost every day because I got a lot going on. They're to hold me accountable to doing whatever I said that they need to do their job effectively. So we do it. And that's what we do.
Same. And I've reverted, I feel like it's more old school, right? But I've reverted to a meeting system more than anything because I've got all these people messaging me on all these platforms every day that work for me. Text messages. I had an employee, which is insane, by the way, Facebook message me. Can you do this for me? I guess because I didn't respond to something, which I'm not mad at the employee, but for some reason it felt invasive, right? Because it's like the one place I go that isn't work related. But anyway, you know, I've got these Teams messages, these text messages, these emails. And I finally started saying, look, if you need something from me and you're someone I work with regularly, let's set a standing meeting. If you're someone that doesn't need something, then just go to my assistant and get a meeting and let's knock it out. Let's spend the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, the 15 minutes, the 3 hours, whatever it is if I am the choke point, let's get it done. And then let me figure out how I can not be the choke point in the future. Let me see if there's someone else that should be the choke point. But I think even that old school method of just going back to doing meetings, like, I mean, you just said you do, like, get it done, but you have to be accountable to your team, right?
Well, I'm old school. And the reason being, trying to manage via text message and calendars and asynchronous meetings where everyone's just putting stuff on doesn't hold people accountable and they lose connection to the culture. And we have an opportunity as leaders to create a culture that we want. I mean, I have one of my company created an acronym, PREACH, positive results, focus, expect excellence, take action, collaborate, and have a ball all the time. And so everyone in my company knows that, and we have to live it to lead it.
I love that. Well, David, we are almost out of time. But before we go, I do have to ask you, what does it mean to you to level up?
Getting better every day, studying, learning, growing. I'm going to be 57 years old, and every day to this day, I read, I listen, I study at least an hour a day. And then I get ideas from that. And I say, what is one thing that I'm going to implement? So every day I'm implementing one new thing. And if we just get 1% every day, we will not only be leveling up, we'll be mastering up.
I could not agree more. David, thank you so much for your time today. I'd like to thank David Asarnow for joining us on the show. As you can see, you have to implement strategy. It's not just an AI solution. It's not just a, hey, do this, follow this script. You have to implement strategy in everything you do, whether that's hiring, whether that's marketing, or whether that's even coming up with the appropriate accountability channels. And then you can take your business from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8, or even 8 to 9. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player.